Good morning students, welcome you all for online classes. Today we will discuss the topic on cryptographic protocol. It is a protocol and it uses cryptography. The parties can be friends and trust each other implicitly. So a cryptographic protocol involves some cryptographic algorithm, but generally the goal of the protocol is simple secrecy. So it is called what? Cryptographic protocol. Protocol basics. Here operational motivation for protocols, that is many applications and have complex security requirements. That is, if we wish to transmit some sensitive information across an insecure network, then there should be confidentiality and data origin authentication guarantees, and involve information flowing between more than one entity, then consist of a sequence of logical events. These all are what? Protocol basics. Components of cryptography protocol. What are the components? The protocol assumptions, protocol flow. Assumptions, prerequisites, assumptions concerning the environment in which the protocol will be run. This involves assumptions about the entire environment. And the protocol flow, the sequence of communications that need to take place between entities involved in the protocol. For example, client can authorization request to the source owner, then resource owner cannot give the grant to access the resources, then client can authorization grant and client credentials to authorization server, then server will give the authentication, that is flow. Then the protocol messages. Protocol message, the content of each message is exchanged between two entities in the protocol. Then protocol actions, the details of any actions that an entity needs to perform after receiving or before sending a protocol message. From objectives to a protocol, that is stages of protocol design. There are three main stages to the process of designing a cryptographic protocol. The first one is what? Defining the objectives. This is the problem statement and which identifies what the problem is that the protocol is intended to solve, and particularly performance related objectives. Determining the protocol goals. So in this stage translates the objectives into a set of clear cryptographic requirements. The protocol goal are typically statements of the form at the end of the protocol, that is entity X will be assured of security service Y. The specifying the protocol. This takes a protocol goal as an input and involves the determining some cryptographic primitives, message flow and actions that achieve these goals. A very simple example of these stages would be the following. The defining the objectives, that for example Bob wants to make sure that a contract that he will receive from alias cannot later be denied. and determining the protocol goals. At the end of the protocol, Bob requires non-repudiation of the contract received from the alias. These all are examples of these stages. And the challenge of the stage of the protocol design, that is defining the objectives, it can be very difficult to determine in advance exactly what security requirements a particular application has, and the determining the protocol goals. Then specifying the protocol, designing a cryptographic protocol meeting the specified goals can be a very difficult task. This difficulty often comes as a surprise to system designers without cryptographic expertise who may be attempted to design their own cryptographic protocols. So some notations used to describe our second 7 candidate protocols. So this symbol represents what? Concatenation, and Bob an identifier. MACK, data means a MAC computed on data using a key. EK stands for what? Symmetric encryption of data using key K. So symmetric encryption of data using K. Then signature A means it is a digital signature on data computed by Alice, and TA means a timestamp generated by Alice, and TB bar what? Timestamp generated by Bob. Then session IDs. So candidate protocols, there are 7 candidate protocols, and has 3 security goals. There is a more than one cryptographic protocol meeting these goals, and some protocols only meet the goal if we make some additional assumptions, and some protocols which appear at first to meet the goals. So first we will discuss on protocol 1. Here assumptions and description and analysis. For each protocol we have to discuss these 3 criteria, that is assumptions, description and analysis. So first protocol 1, there are 3 assumptions that we make before running this protocol. That is, Bob has access to source of randomness. This is necessary because protocol requires Bob to be able to generate norms, and also assume that this generator is secure in order to guarantee unpredictability of the output. Alice and Bob already share symmetric key that is known only to them. So this one is Alice and this one is Bob. Okay. Bob has access to source of randomness, and Bob to able to generate a norms and also assume that this generator is secure. So in order to guarantee unpredictability of this output, then Alice and Bob already share a symmetric key that is known only to them. If third person knows this key, then he can easily access your message. See here, Bob has access to a source of randomness. RB means what? Randomness of Bob. Alice and Bob already share a symmetric key that is uh, known only to them. And Alice and Bob agree on the use of a strong MAC algorithm, message authentication. This is necessary because if the MAC algorithm is flawed, then data origin authentication is not necessarily provided by it. Okay, these three assumptions from protocol 1. Then its description is: Bob conducts the following steps. Generates a nonce RB. Here Bob generates a nonce RB. Bob concatenates RB. Bob sends the request to Alice. Alice concatenates the nonce RB to identifier B and the text "Yes, I am okay." We will refer to this combined data strings. Alice components MAC on the reply text using key K. The reply text is then concatenated to the MAC to form the reply. Here. On the receipt of the reply, Bob makes the following checks. Bob checks the received reply text on consists of valid RB concatenated to his identifier Bob and a meaningful response to his query. Yes, I am okay. Then Bob computes the MAC on the received reply text with the key K and checks to see if it matches the received MAC. If both of these checks are satisfactory, then Bob accepts the reply and ends the protocol. We say the protocol successfully completes if this is the case. And the analyzers. Data origin authentication of Alice reply and freshness of Alice reply, then assurance that Alice reply corresponds to Bob's request. Four of the components of a cryptographic protocol. There are protocol assumption, protocol flow, protocol message and protocol actions that we have already discussed in the beginning slides. And now we will move on to protocol 2. Is very similar to protocol 1. In fact, it is in protocol assumptions that the main difference lie. Bob has access to source of randomness, okay, and as for protocol 1, and Alice has been assigned with a signature key, and Bob has access to a verification code key corresponding to Alice's signature key. This is the digital signature scheme equivalent to the second assumption for protocol 1. And Alice and Bob agree on the use of a strong digital signature scheme. And this description, it's exactly as per protocol 1, except that instead of computing a MAC on the reply text, Alice digitally signs the reply text using her signature key. Instead of computing and comparing the MAC, the reply text, Bob verifies Alice's digital signature on the reply text using her verification key. And the analyzers Data origin authentication of Alice reply. Under the second assumption, the only entity who can compute the correct digital signature on the reply text, that is Alice. Okay, and here digital signature is verified. The received digital signature must have been computed by Alice, and Bob indeed has assurance that reply was generated by Alice. Now protocol 3. These are identical to protocol 1 and same description also 1 from protocol 1, but in this protocol 3 identifier Bob is omitting from the reply text. Protocol analyzes a reply corresponds to Bob's request. There is an attack that can be launched against protocol 3 in certain environments. Attacker plays the role of mirror, and this is a reflection attack against protocol 3. Here instead of Alice, attacker will take a role to act as an Alice. Okay. The reflection attack working in this way, attacker is able to intercept and block all the communication between Alice and Bob, and also assume that Bob normally recognizes that incoming topic may be from Alice through the use of the channel rather than explicit identifier. Okay, Bob simply assume that these messages from Alice, but these messages will moving from the attacker side. The reflection attack works. Bob initiates a run of protocol 3 by issuing a request message. Then the attacker intercepts the request message and sends it straight back to Bob, except that the text, it's Bob, is replaced by the text is Alice. Yeah. Okay. Bob will regard the receipt of a message containing his nouns or be as rather strange and will surely reject it. In this case, Bob will simply see a request message that appears to come from Alice, and since he is alive, will compute a corresponding reply message. He then sends this reply to Alice. The attacker intercepts this reply message and sends it back to Bob. Bob, who is accepting a reply from Alice, checks that it contains the expected fields and that MAC is correct. Okay, this is what reply attack on protocol 3. There are two options in protocol 3. It would be repair and include an action to check for this attack and include an identifier. Here, Bob keeping a note of all protocol 3 sessions that he currently has open. He should then check whether any request messages that he receives match any of these of his own open request. And in identifier, there is no point in doing so in the request, since it is unprotected and an attacker could change it without detection. In protocol 4, here Alice and Bob have agreed on the use of a strong symmetric encryption algorithm, and in description, instead of computing a MAC, Alice uses E to encrypt the reply text using key K and Alice does not send the reply text to Bob. Instead of computing and comparing received MAC, Bob simply decrypts received encrypted reply text. The analysis of this protocol is: consider whether encryption can be used in the context to provide a data origin authentication. The case against and the case for. Case against means does not provide a data origin authentication, because encryption does not in general provide data origin authentication. Case for means if encryption is used to provide data origin authentication. These mainly arose when the plain text was long and unformatted. In this case, reply text is short and has a specific format. While while authenticating between two users, okay, these conditions are mandatory. And in protocol 5, here we are the nonce generated by Bob is replaced by what? Timestamp. Okay. These are the same as the assumptions for protocol 1, except Bob to have a source of randomness is replaced by Bob can generate and verify integrity protected timestamps. Instead of generating a nonce or B, Bob generates an integrity protected timestamp TB. Okay, in previous protocol we have seen RB, right? But here we are using TB, timestamp. This is then included in both request by Bob and by Alice. As part of his checks on the reply, Bob checks that the reply text includes TB. The analysis same data origin authentication of Alice's reply and assurance that Alice's reply corresponds to Bob's request. And in protocol 6, these are the same as the protocol 1, but here Bob to have a random generator is replaced by Alice can generate a timestamp that Bob can verify. Okay, Bob, it's a Bob, are you okay? Then Alice sending a message about a timestamp and Bob can verify. Bob conducts the following steps from the request. Bob forms simplified request message that just consists of the text, it's Bob, are you okay? Here, it's Bob, are you okay? To Alice. Then Bob sends the request to Alice. Assuming that she is alive and able to respond, Alice conducts the following steps. Alice generates a timestamp TA, okay, TA, and concatenates it to identifier Bob. Concatenate to its identifier what? Bob. And then text S, I am okay, to form the reply text. Yes, I am okay, to form the reply text. And Alice computes MAC on the reply text using key K. The reply text is then concatenated to the MAC to form the reply. Yeah, yes, I am okay. Alice sends this reply to Bob. Authentication and key establishment protocols, that is AKE protocols. The two main security objectives of an AKE protocols are mutual entity and establishment of a common symmetric key. This is what a key protocol. Need to authenticate key holders. Key establishment make little sense without entity authentication. It is hard to imagine any applications where we would want to establish a common symmetric key between two parties without at least one party being sure of the other's identity. Okay, and typical AKE protocol goals: mutual entity, data origin authentication and key establishment, key confidentiality and key freshness. Mutual entity: Alice and Bob are able to verify each other's identity to make sure that they know with whom they are establishing key. Mutual data origin authentication: be sure that information being exchanged originates with the other party and not an attacker. It means origin of authentication. Key establishment: they can establish a common symmetric key. And confidentiality: should at no time be accessible to any party other than Alice and Bob. And key freshness: Alice Alice and Bob should be happy that the established key is not one that has been used before. Okay, it's a fresh key. And the next one is Diffie-Hellman protocol requires the existence of public key crypto system with a special property: public and private keys